Shalom, everyone. This is Janice Baca, and you're on lambnetwork.tv with Revealing Spirit and Truth. Thank you guys for being here today. I'm thankful for all of you. You have been completely supportive of this ministry, especially with Project Truth Ministries. And every time I look at that introduction, I think of the time that we made our trip to Mount Sinai. And well, funny that you should mention Mount Sinai because I'm bringing Brian Williams on. We're going to be talking a little bit about that too. And so, but I don't know if you guys saw that tall, dark, and handsome man on there. That's my tall, dark, and handsome husband. I just want to say I love you, David. Thank you for your support in this ministry as well. And so, looks like we got, hey, Jeff Brannon, thank you for being here. We've got, let's see, we got Olivia. My dear friend Olivia is here. We've got Gulison. Thank you for being here. We got a lot of nice people here. Jeffrey Justice, you were the first one on. Thank you for being here as well. And so Lynn Hobbs, oh, she's got so many books, you guys. Her and Jeff Brannon have some amazing books you guys need to check out. We love these people. They're just amazing people. So, hey guys, we're on part 2 of the Q&A session. We're going to be answering you some questions. Now, this is going to be a toss between Mount Sinai as well as the Cochin Hebrew Revelation. And so we really didn't touch Mount Sinai much last week. But guess what? Brian Williams is also a tour guide for Mount Sinai in, yes, Saudi Arabia. Did you say Saudi Arabia? I think I did say Saudi Arabia. But I'm going to bring him on because I'm going to stop dragging my feet on this and get him on here because it's more fun when he's on here with me anyway. Brian.
Shalom. Hello, Janice. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. It's always good to have you here on this side. Not that you and I aren't working on with Project Truth Ministries as well, but hey, what does it matter, right?
Yes. Thank you so much for having me on. I say hello to your
Sure.
audience. We got some crossover audience. We love, Jeff Brandon's show and
Yep.
Way Remnant,
Yep.
Project Truth Ministries. We got the Lamb Network. We are
Yep.
just circling all the wagons on the
We are, aren't
coolest
we?
subjects ever, Mount Sinai and manuscripts. I mean, come on, people. This
Well,
is
that's what you
exciting.
and I have been all about, right, Brian? Is that
Yes.
we love connecting with like-minded people. I love promoting their books, their material. When they are like-minded, they walk in the way of God. They have spirit and truth. We love joining forces with them.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So
And, you know, They, I want to bring out so much about Mount Sinai. I know we got a really smart audience, so I know they're going to ask some really good questions. But
yeah.
just think about the importance of Mount Sinai. The Mount Sinai is the quintessential Exodus. Coming out of the world. You can
Yes.
see that in Abraham. Abraham came out of his world, crossed over the
Yep.
Euphrates into the promised land to be with God. You got the Israelites coming out of bondage of Egypt and sin and leaving that and coming out into the wilderness to dwell with God. And
Yes.
we personally, people, all of us believers have had our own personal spiritual exodus coming out of the world
We sure
to
have.
dwell and follow God. And that's a beautiful thing. And Mount Sinai is shadow pictures of all of us, so
Yeah.
we all can learn from it. And
Yeah.
the
Well, I
real
want to
Mount
say real quick, hello to M. Warner's Ministries. And guess what, Brian? People are already wanting you to take them on a trip. So,
Sinai.
but if you go on a trip, don't
Yeah.
leave me and David behind.
Yeah.
So, at least figure out how to get us on
Oh,
in your
see what
suitcase
we
or
can do.
something. Come on.
Yeah, yeah, so to give a shout out to Living Passages Tours, you can go online, check out Living Passages. They will take you to Mount Sinai. And shout out to Rhonda. Tell Rhonda that Brian came and sent you here to talk to
That's
them.
right.
And possibly you could jump on a tour with me and I could be your guide, Mr.
Oh
Project Truth Ministry
man,
guy.
that would be
Yeah,
awesome.
taking you to different locations and explaining what you see and take you to all the secret stuff, the hidden stuff. Like, hey, look, there's a carving under this rock. Look up under here. I
That's
can do that.
amazing.
I know where all the stuff is. So, yeah,
Yeah,
pretty cool stuff.
Brian, this Q&A session, we really were trying to we have limited time here, but
Mhm.
we really were trying to bounce between the coach and revelation. At Project Truth Ministries, we have two huge passions. The Cochin manuscript, which was kind of a new edition, later edition, I say a couple of years later, but Passion for Truth Ministries has been pretty much all about Mount Sinai and, of course, the biblical sites. And so now we sort of threw it all together in one big mixing pot of Project Truth Ministries.
Yeah.
And so that's actually been pretty exciting to bring all of this together. But I'd like to start off with answering some questions about
Yes,
Mount Sinai.
let's jump right in. All
You
right,
know,
let's see.
Brian, one of the things
Yeah.
that people say is, how is it not a traditional site over there in Egypt?
Yeah, so first of all, the Bible makes it clear that the Israelites left Egypt. So they can't be in Egypt, but also leave Egypt at the same time. And the
Mhm.
traditional location is in Egypt. And that traditional location is said to have been dated by Helen, Constantine's mom, in around 300, mid 300s AD, that she
Mhm.
allegedly came to this location and declared that this is Mount Sinai. The problem with that is the recording of that doesn't show up till I think it's somewhere between 800 and 900 years after the fact.
Mm.
So there is some question on if that story is even true. But with that being said, so the Catholics declared these locations are the locations. The traditional location is in the middle of nowhere. There's no archaeology. There's no evidence of people coming through. There's no water in that particular area. The mountain is very underwhelming. The mountain is not blackened.
Mhm.
And, there's no evidence that the Israelites were there. There's no carvings or anything to suggest, or paintings or anything to suggest that these people went through here. Also, the Bible says that they were in the land of Midian. Midian
Mhm.
is northwest Saudi Arabia.
And it's
Now,
still named
yeah,
Midian to this day.
right, Midian, yeah.
Right.
The Arabs in that area, they have grown up as far back as recorded history saying that's the mountain of Moses over there. And there's a particular mountain there that is blackened on top and has archaeology all around it. We found ancient Hebrew writings and carvings. There you go. There's a picture of it. It's blackened on top. It's called Jabal al-Lawz. And Lawz in Arabic means almonds. So this is the mountain of
Almonds.
almonds, and that's related to Aaron's staff. You can think of that. I've hiked this mountain. I have seen almond trees with my own two eyes. I've eaten almonds on the mountain of almonds. You can see there's my hand with some almonds in my
That's
hand.
right.
Yeah, but all this matches everything. Blackened. There's a bunch of archaeology, Hebrew, Egyptian stuff, all at the base of this mountain. The
Yeah.
description of the mountain and things that go along with the story is there to this day. You have a stream that flows out of the mountain. You have an altar that's built at the bottom of this mountain. You have a pile of giant boulders, all situated and moved and put in position, carved with Egyptian style bulls and cows all around it, in the essence of worship and the praises, pose motion with their arms up and stuff. All stuff you see back in Egypt. There's
Right.
pottery. There's even more stuff. Maybe some updates I can drop today
Amen. Amen.
as we go along. But I just want to quickly say this, just so it's for the record. So in Galatians 4:25, Paul mentions that Sinai is in Arabia, not Egypt. You have in
Wow.
Hebrews chapter 12, verse 18 through 19, it mentions that it's blackened and dark.
Ooh.
You have Philo talking about Mount Sinai is in the land of Arabia. You have Philo again mentioning that it's the highest mountain in that district, and that's the case. Jabal al-Lawz is the highest mountain range. You got Eusebius also saying the same thing. Mount Sinai is in Arabia, and Jerome doing the same thing. And finally, Josephus also mentions Mount Sinai is the highest mountain in the city of Midian. So there's some historical proofs to say the traditional site is wrong, and the scholars have been looking in the wrong places. What a surprise!
It's something of the reason why, who was it that said this, that the reason why it was another mountain was just chosen was because, well, they weren't allowed into Saudi Arabia until recently. Now, how recently was it that people could go into Saudi Arabia legally and look at the
Yeah.
mountain?
So that
You know?
that it's been considered a closed off country from the West for a very long time, and it wasn't until I think around 2016, maybe 2018-ish, they
Yeah.
started to open up and allow countries that weren't originally able to go into Saudi Arabia. Now they were getting in, so
Hmm.
Americans started to trickle in. I was among some of the early groups that tried to get in, and then COVID hit, and I had to wait some more years.
Right.
But I was part of those first waves of Americans that were finally getting allowed in, and these Christians and
So,
yeah,
Brian, what was really exciting is that there was a fence all the way around, at least I know the front part of Mount Sinai, right?
sure.
That they were not allowing people to go through. But
Mhm,
I know that when we went on our trip in 2023, we were able to trample on the
mm,
fence that was laying on the ground. That to me is so prophetic
yeah.
that we're like the clampets, right? We're dangling all over with our stuff and we're walking over
We
this.
will not be denied
We would not be
access to
denied.
God the Father.
No, so we walk
Yeah,
over that fence
yeah,
into Mount Sinai area, and what a picture that gives us
yeah,
is that, the Father lowered that fence for such a time as this, that we could actually
yeah.
go and see Mount Sinai.
Yeah, and I find it very ironic that that fence, has been laying sideways for a while, but
Mhm.
that fence was laid down by waters that came from the the ravine that runs from the top
Wow.
of the side of Mount Sinai. So those
Wow.
waters that flowed back when Moses was there
Wow.
once flowed again and washed that fence out.
That's pretty interesting. I
Mhm.
mean I mean, to this day, there's still a fence around the, Aaron's altar or the golden calf altar,
Yeah.
and so we're
It's
able to go
unlocked. I
beyond that.
assure I
It's
assure
unlocked?
people now it's unlocked, and the local guy who has the key does not lock it anymore.
I'm
So if you come, you don't have to worry about not getting access to it. It's available to the public now.
I
But
think it's
also, there's a
phenomenal.
big hole on one of the sides that you can just kinda crawl under. It just
Isn't that
is
interesting?
you're not gonna be denied, trust me.
So there's so much evidence, Brian. I think we
Mm,
need to
yeah.
stress how much evidence there is. You could stay there for weeks,
Mhm.
and you could even imagine in your mind, you could see someone climbing to a little cliff area and probably carving something or drawing
Mhm.
something. And most of the times, you could actually find something in that area.
Oh, yeah.
There's so much evidence there.
Oh, yes. Every time I go, I find something new, and then
Hmm.
I have to check with all my resources like, "Hey, have y'all seen this?" And
Hmm.
it's pretty amazing because it's like a little treasure hunt. It's like under every rock is the possibility of you discovering a new carving,
Yes.
or a new painting or something that has not been
Yes.
discovered before. A lot
Yes.
of the area around the base of Mount Sinai and near the Golden Calf altar area has been explored extensively. So if you
Hmm.
find something, it's probably been discovered before, but hey, it's new to you. You found it. That's
That's
pretty cool. And
that's
you
exactly
find
right.
it. So
That's
it's really
exactly
exciting
right.
to just go around looking. And I've done a lot of searching and I've seen a lot of amazing things. I mean, paintings and carvings of and script,
Yeah.
ancient scripts, Hebrew marker scripts,
And the menorah.
really.
There was, actually a couple of
Mhm.
menorahs, right? I know
Yeah,
Dr. Kim found a
yeah,
menorah,
yeah.
and of course, some of the Bedouin later scratched it off because they
Later.
didn't want it there, but there's
Yep.
a mystery menorah there somewhere.
Yeah, there's a second menorah that was found, and that location is not being disclosed
Good.
because they don't want it to be destroyed. Um,
Exactly.
but yeah, I mean, I'll go ahead and give some of my latest updates.
Please do.
I've got briefed recently. So so there was a carving found not too long ago of these two people being stabbed with a sword all the way through both of them.
Whoa.
And that's near Mount Sinai, near the base of Mount Sinai. So that's also very significant to have something like that, because there's a Bible story that comes to mind about
Hmm.
someone getting stabbed all the way
Hmm.
through with two people.
Right.
So yeah. Also, there has, a lot of people know about Joel's Archers. There's a
Mm-hmm.
ravine right up on around the corner that juts up to Mount Sinai. I forget the name what we call that ravine, but anyways, it goes right up
Was
to
this in
Mount
the
Sinai.
picture here? Let me see if I can see if this has it. And no, I guess it doesn't,
No,
huh?
it would be around the corner from that, but it
Okay.
comes up
Oops.
from another angle. This is just
Yeah.
not one of those other ravines that is right there at the base of the
Yeah.
mountain. And that's where we find what's called Joel's Archers. I think him and his party was one of the ones that found these. But they're archers of people, shooting or
Hmm.
warning, like, "Hey, don't come on this mountain; you're gonna get shot." Um, but there has since been found a third set of archers recently.
Really?
Yes, so we're getting more and more archers, and what we theorize is the more we look around the mountain, the more we're going to see these paintings, almost like a no trespassing sign saying, "Don't come on the
Wow.
mountain; you're going to get shot." So we're but the mountain is huge, so it's really hard
Yes.
to search that whole, especially the whole eastern side of that mountain.
Yes.
It's a massive amount of searching.
So, but so you have more updates, right?
I do. I have a little bit.
Okay. Are you going to update on Neom as well, or?
Neom, I could touch on it, but
Okay.
I don't want to cause too many waves because I still do have to go back
Okay. All
over
right.
there.
Whatever you
Uh,
can do. I
yes.
understand, Brian.
So I'll just say this about Neom. Neom is a mega city that they're trying to build
Hmm.
in Saudi Arabia. It's going to be all around the area of Mount Sinai, not specifically on the mountain, but just in the general area. They've been building roads and stuff and construction. Well, Neom construction has slowed down, so there's a
Hmm.
lot less people in that area, and
But I
that's a
think it's supposed to be
good thing.
smaller now, right? It's not going to be as large as what they
The
intended.
Yeah, I think the plans are shifting and changing, and
Mhm.
we don't know exactly how it's going to pan out, but the good part is, if you go on a tour to Mount Sinai, check out Living Passages,
Mhm.
the less traffic, the less cars, the less people going through there will give you back the same feeling that you feel when you're deep in the desert away from everybody.
Amen.
And when I first got there, um, there was no roads. I mean, it was dirt paths, and
Mhm.
it was just bumpy. And for 2 hours, I'm just on a
Mhm.
bumpy, dirt path, and you're out in the middle of nowhere. You gotta get that feeling. There's nothing around,
Right.
and God has really put these people far away from civilization, so
Right.
that they have no excuses. Like, they have to listen to God. They have to focus on Him, because there's
Right.
no other distractions. I mean, there's no town next to you. There's no traffic coming through. You're deep in the desert. And that was good for me to experience that. Wow, you're so isolated. No wonder this thing was protected. It's in the
Right.
middle of nowhere.
Right.
It's covered in mountains, and it's in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
So
And
yeah.
this I think this might be Tammy that's chatting here, but I think that things are happening in Saudi Arabia for preparation for the greater second Exodus. Don't you think, Brian?
Mm, that's certainly possible.
That's what I
Um,
think,
yeah.
because it was off limits for a long time, and,
Yes.
I think it's only, what, 10 years that people have been able to visit Mount Sinai in Saudi Arabia, or
I
is it
would
longer?
say, basically 2020, but it's kind of
Okay.
slowed
Oh,
because of
2020.
COVID. So not even that. I mean, it's a lot less.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
it's being preserved. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
blessed thing, is that it's being preserved.
Yep.
And so the only people that are there, are the Bedouin that just walk by, and pretty
Mhm.
much it still stays intact. And I love that about the Mount Sinai, the real one that's been preserved all this time.
Mhm.
Now, you and I have a friend named Jem, and Jem was a pilot. I want to say, I think he said somewhere around early 2000 or 2003, something like that. And I
Mhm.
think he said he flew over that area. And
Yeah.
if I remember correctly, he said that as an Air Force pilot, they were not allowed to fly over that mountain because they continue to call it Moses Mountain, and that
Mhm.
God actually manifest his presence on that mountain.
Mhm.
So my understanding is they were afraid of flying over Mount Sinai because they knew then
Yeah.
that it was Mount Sinai, or at least
Yeah.
Moses Mountain.
Oh, absolutely. The town that's positioned to the west of it, right there in the middle section, that's kind of
Hmm.
open like like a dead delta type shape in the desert. It's called Al Bad. Al Bad is the ancient city of Midian, and that
Okay.
is where Jethro lived. He lived in that major city right there. And so when Moses came to that area, and he came to meet, Jethro's daughter at the well, he came north along the main travel routes, and he came to that area. Now, him grazing and, raising his sheeps and goats and stuff like that, when the weather's changed, he would then take them, to the sea, or he would take
Hmm.
them, deeper up the mountains. And on that western side, he would take them over there to Jabal al-Lawz. And, of course, the western side is probably where he encountered the burning bush.
Hmm.
And so then when he got the Israelites, he came around the eastern side, came down, and he was on the eastern side of the exact same mountain. Um, but yeah,
I
the
wish.
locals all know this. The locals have their traditions. Moses was here. This is the Wadi of Moses. The people there have always known this. You can't tell them anything different. This
Right.
is
They
who they
know this
are.
as a matter of fact. It was
Yeah.
the rest of the world that didn't
Yeah.
really know it, right?
Yeah.
And so the reason why it was not explored before is, well, because no one was allowed in to even see it.
Yeah.
So it was off limits. So they,
Mhm.
there was another mountain chosen randomly, I think. I don't know why, because there's absolutely zero evidence in Egypt,
Yeah.
which is already conflicting with scripture. They left the land, they left out of Egypt and went into the land of Midian. And
Mhm.
it's right there in the smack dab of Midian.
Yeah.
So
And we have
anyway, I
so
keep
much
cutting
evidence.
you
But
off, but
but
you
yeah,
got some more updates.
let's challenge our listeners. Go ahead and put some comments in. What would you like to know, about some of the details of Mount Sinai and the areas around? I
Yeah.
can speak about all kinds of we can go different directions about this. I've spent a lot of time on the ground, and
I want to show the pictures
yeah,
again so that people can
sure.
see. So do you guys see the blackened top? The rocks literally are black on top, and when you
Yeah.
flip them over, it's almond colored.
Mhm.
So it appears that God came down and burned the top of the mountain. And I mean, it fits the description that I would think that you would expect to see is a burned mountain top. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, and I've demonstrated this with many people. If you take another rock and you find a boulder that's black, you beat
Yeah.
it on a little bit, and you can chip off pieces, and you can see
Yeah.
the inner part, that just like this boulder. I think I actually did that very thing with this boulder. But
Yeah.
you chip off some pieces, and you can see the inner parts of it is a different color.
Absolutely.
And
And I think
yeah,
let's see, let me see if this is because you
there's
can
another
sort
close
of
up. The
see,
darkness.
yeah, you can
Yeah,
see the darkness, and then, of course, the rocks below
yeah.
that are more of an almond color. And so it's absolutely amazing what we're seeing in this. Um, and so looks like
Yeah.
we've got some comments here.
Mhm.
Hopefully I haven't missed anything.
I
Have any of
see
these?
how high is the mountain.
Okay, go ahead.
So the location of the upper northern part of the mountain is 8,400 feet. And then the lower peak, which is the southern peak, that is the peak that everybody gets to see. That's the Makla Peak. There's a peak just a little bit above that. That is the southern peak, and that one is 7,800 feet. And so when you're looking at these images like what Janice keeps putting up on the screen, that is not even the top. That is the first peak that you
This
can
one here.
visibly see from the ground. There
Mhm.
are 3 more peaks behind that peak that you're looking at. You can kinda see there's the hump of a little bit of the middle peak, but there's 3 humps there that make up the southern portion, and then there's a northern portion that's even higher. So this thing is massive. I mean, it's so big.
It is
It's an
massive.
and, if you want some hiking numbers, the average person, it takes them 4 hours to get to the what we call the plateau, which is probably the best candidate for the 70 elders to have a covenant meal. It
Mhm.
says they went up on the mountain, and then Moses left them and went further up, and then he went into the fire. So that matches kind of the shape of the mountain and where you would go. And
Hmm.
so it's 4 hours to the plateau section for the average person, like climbing a stairmaster. And then it's about an hour and a half to go further up to get to the Makla Peak, which is what you see in the image. So it's a big hike, but trust
So,
me, I can
so
get you
eight
up there.
8 hours to the peak. Or so I thought they weren't doing any more tours of the peak, but they are, right? You can climb the peak if you're
Yeah,
in good health.
yeah. If you're in good
Okay.
health and you're willing to do it, and we bring a lot of water with you, we can get you up there.
Yeah, so I know it took my husband David 8 hours to get up and 8 hours to get down, but he's not a billy goat like you are. So, I mean, because you kind of bounced your way up and bounced your way down,
Sometimes I
and
fell my way down.
that could happen.
Yeah.
So, and I think there was a few people that kind of
Oh yeah.
stumbled on their way down, and
Yes. And
um,
I'll say this too. Every plant on that mountain, with the exception of like the almond trees and the pomegranate trees that we find, there's some few figs here and there, but all the other plants have spikes, so you cannot grab
oh
anything. You
yeah,
gotta watch your hands and
yeah.
don't touch the green stuff. They'll get you.
There are some serious spikes. I know you took a picture of one. I took a picture of one. The
Yeah.
spikes are like about an inch, inch and a half
Oh
long.
yeah.
They're huge. They're
Oh yeah.
huge.
Now
So,
I see another question over here.
okay.
It's asking about modern Jews, or I'm assuming they're talking about scholarly modern Jews also claim the Saudi Arabian mountain is the Mount Sinai. So that's kind of shifting and changing. In the
Mm-hmm.
past, the I guess Israel or their archaeology was like, we don't know, we haven't found it, and then some of them would side with, oh, the traditional sites probably, right? But when they took control of the Sinai Peninsula, by the way, Sinai Peninsula was named after Constantine's mommy. Again, we don't know if that's even true, but historically now that's what that area is called. It wasn't called that in ancient times, so you
Mm-hmm.
can't call it Sinai based on biblical stories or anything like that in ancient times. But anyways, when they took control of that area, they did a thorough sweep for looking for archaeology to show, like, was the Israelites in this area? Can we trust the traditional Mount Sinai, all that stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And they found nothing because it's a wasteland and nobody
Mm-hmm.
ever dwelled there.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm sorry because there was
So,
somebody that was. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah.
Finish what you were going
But
to say.
to finish out, so there are people, especially us, for Living Patches, that are taking archaeologists in that area and taking them
Mm-hmm.
through the routes that we have found and said this is the likely route, and then taking them to the archaeology and the paintings and stuff. There are people that are starting to come around and starting to believe that that is the Mount Sinai. That's the real Mount Sinai, not the traditional one. So
Mm-hmm.
it's all just spreading the word and getting people um, familiar with the evidence. And at a
Absolutely.
certain point, it's just going to crest, over, and people are just going to give in.
When we went in 2023, I'm still attending the Israel Institute of Biblical Studies, but at that time, my instructor, he was a Cohen, a Jew
Mm,
in Israel, in Jerusalem, and of course, he does canting on their canting days. I think he does Tuesdays, and so he even said, "So where are you going?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to Saudi Arabia to see Mount Sinai." And he says, "Oh, so you're going to the land of Midian?" And it's like, and so you're going to go to see. Now, this is him here in Jerusalem.
mm,
And, he never argued to say, well, that's
mm.
not where it is.
Yeah,
It's just that he knows that they can't travel to
yeah,
Saudi Arabia to go see the Mount
yeah.
Sinai. So,
There,
unfortunately, they can't go
yeah.
in.
Uh, that is going to change. They've already opened up flights from Israel to Saudi Arabia.
Awesome.
I don't think the Israelis are yet, ready to do that, but the relationship is changing quite drastically in a
Yes.
positive relationship for Israelis and Jewish people to come
Yes.
to um, to the real Mount Sinai, and
Yeah.
the Saudi government also has completely had that position that that is the mountain of Moses, and that
Hmm.
we would be interested in tourism, people come and see this mountain. I wish they would create museums of archaeology that I know they have collected.
They have
Jess, you and
collected it.
I know they
We
have
know
collected
they
things.
have collected it.
There's a lot of things that have gone missing that I'm like, I wish I could take you guys to see this,
Mhm,
but it's not there anymore because the government has probably snatched it up.
right.
So at some point, I'm expecting Saudi Arabia to put out a amazing, beautiful museum in relation to Mount Sinai
I do
because that's
hope they
part of their
kept it
plan.
safe. I do think that they care very
Mhm.
much about the mountain. They've made it
Yeah,
clear that they really do care about the mountain.
yeah,
They don't quite understand our fascination with it as
mm,
entirely as they do, but that's okay. They
yeah,
do call it Moses Mountain, so they know there's significance in it. And they know there's archaeological finds in that area. So we know that it's a valuable place relating to the archaeological finds that's already been found.
mm, yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so
I see, I
do you
see a
have something
question
else you
about
want to say?
water.
Okay.
They're asking about a water source, creeks and rivers. So yeah, you can see, especially at the location that we've identified, or other people have identified, and we've also been to and agree. There is, in the land of Rephidim, which is north of Mount Sinai, there was no water. It was dry as a
Right.
bone, and so um, then all of a sudden there's this aquifer that pushed up these boulders and it sticks out like a sore thumb like this, and
Mhm.
it split and water came out of this underground aquifer and produced a small little lake, and that matches the biblical split rock. And then
Mhm.
you have the Amalekites, which we know were dwelling northeast of this location. If they were to come around from the northeast into battle for that water, that fits the Bible with the Israelites coming this way, and then they come in and attacking them from behind.
Mhm.
Everything fits. We've even found carvings all right there by the split rock. We've even found the word lechem,
Uh-huh.
bread, at
Bread or food or
at around that split rock location.
Mhm.
And then you notice when you get to Mount Sinai, you don't hear them complaining and begging for water anymore
No.
because there was water there.
There was water
Read your
there.
read the Bible carefully. There was a spring that came out of the mountain, and that's of course what we find. We find Moses making an altar at the base of Mount Sinai,
Right.
and you have to have water to clean the utensils, to clean the priest, to do all these
Mhm.
things, clean the animals, all that stuff. You have to
Mhm.
have water next to your altar. And lo and behold, that ravine right between Mount Sinai and the mountain next to it is a ravine that fills up with water, and
Mhm.
it rushes down into a lake-like structure through periodic small rains and
We
mists.
had on our trip in 2023, we had Dr. Zalecki with us, and he's a biblical archaeologist and a what was it? His other degree is in what? Do you remember? His specialty
Was it
archaeology
geology?
and geology. You're right. And
Mhm.
he works for the Smithsonian
Okay.
Institute.
Yep.
And he was showing us that I call it a creek bed. He called it a dry creek bed. And he
Mhm.
pointed out to us, there was a few of us around him. He pointed out all of the rocks that had been weathered away by the amounts of water that was
Mhm.
rushing through
Yeah.
there. And it's quite a beautiful sight to see that there was water rushing through there.
Mhm.
Um, and you can see the evidence of it. It's very
Yeah.
clear.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot I could say about that water structure system that was right there at the base of Mount Sinai. There's a lot of
Mhm,
archaeology all surrounding that little spot. Um, it appears that the civilization, i.e., the Israelites, who were dwelling at the base of this mountain, when that water was there, they dug wells in the
mhm,
upper mountain, it was like an upper sand level to that water.
mhm.
And this makes complete sense because if you have people drinking that water, you need a filtering system and you need
Right,
them to be able to draw that water, and you don't want your animals to be affecting the water or have unclean stuff like that,
right.
animals getting clean, whatever. So there's these wells, like I think it's three, maybe possibly five. um some of them were covered up in sand. You could see just a little bit of the remnants of it, but somebody with a lot of brains said, let's build some wells
Mhm,
that the people could come and get the water and not disturb any of the shape of the water and the water that is so famous.
Brian, it is so amazing when you're walking through this very, very dry desert
Mhm.
of how much the Father would provide for the children of Israel in the what is the driest desert in the world. And you just realize that the
Yeah.
cattle couldn't even, if there were cattle, it wouldn't be there. It can't because
No.
there was no greenage, there's
Yeah.
no real foliage for them to live on. The sheep and the goats, the goats definitely can, but
Mhm.
it's amazing how much water that he had to provide, the firewood he had to provide, and just the food source, for them.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
you have to walk through it to feel the burning heat in the day and the cold at night to really feel the difference of how Father had to protect them in the day and in the night,
Oh yeah, they were absolutely relying on God in every way. I mean, they're basically just babies out in the desert,
right?
and God was taking care of them, which was also another miracle in itself. Making their clothes not run out, providing water for them,
Exactly.
providing bread for them in the shape of manna,
Right?
providing meat for them. They complained, and then God said, "Okay, this is how you know how God has a sense of humor. He's like, okay, you want some meat? I'm gonna give you so much meat, it's gonna come flying out your nose."
And then think about the shoe situation, right? I
Mhm.
mean, so we're
Yeah,
told bring your gloves, bring, hiking boots and
yeah.
and a walking stick and all
Oh,
of
yeah.
this stuff. And it's like, and so then trying to climb the mountain, and it's like, geez, they had what, sandals, and they were in much better health than we are, and it's just amazing, the thought of them climbing. It's not a nice little hike on a trail.
No.
It's a
No, no.
climb that
Yeah.
is very treacherous at times.
Yeah, yeah. You should see my gloves the first hike. I was pulling with my hands, and you're not really supposed to pull.
Yeah.
You're supposed to use your legs, but I was pulling, and I shredded my gloves halfway up the mountain. I mean, I
Wow.
still have them. I got photos of them. It's
Wow.
incredible what I did to those gloves, but you know, there's a technique. We can help
Yeah.
you with the technique, but yeah, to think about Moses did this at the age of 80 years old,
I
and the
know.
amount of water that I have to take. I thought about this when I was hiking, and I was like, you know what? By the time I get to the top of this mountain, if I'm going up there to talk to God, I'm going to agree to everything he says.
Yeah.
I'm so exhausted and tired. I'm like, sure, whatever. I made it up here. I'll do whatever you say.
Right?
There's no fight left in you. It's
But s
quite humbling
it
to
is.
climb that mountain.
But to see of course, you didn't show it. You're bouncing all the way down, say,
Yeah.
"Hey, David, why don't you keep going? It's just right there." It's like, "Oh, it's just
Yeah.
right there."
Yeah.
Another hour or so. But,
Yeah.
do you have another question to answer? Because I know there's a one on Revelation that I wanted to jump to,
Yeah.
or
Well, quick, I feel like this is a good one. I need and I have a question here about last time I was there, and some a connection to my wife. Um, I've never shared this story publicly
Mhm.
online. Do you mind if I share this?
Go
I
ahead.
feel like this is one of those Mount Sinai miracles. We come across miracles all the time when we go to Mount
We
Sinai.
do.
Yeah. So last time I was there, I was up at the top of this mountain. I was praying, and I started praying for my wife. I started praying for a future wife. I said, God,
Mhm.
I need you to just do this for me because I can't do it. I tried my own way and I'm failing. I was like, I need you to just bring me somebody. And I prayed
Mm.
that she'd be smart, she'd be teachable, she'd be loving, kind, healthy, all these things. And at the very end of my prayer, and now mind you, this was at 11 o'clock on the mountain in
Mhm.
Saudi time,
Mhm.
and it was on, I have it written down. It's like May 27th or whatever.
Mhm.
So one specific day at 11 o'clock. So I pray this prayer, and at the very end of my prayer, I said, and if she were to have a kid, that would be okay with me. And when it
Wow.
came out my mouth, I was like, what? Where did that come from? That didn't even, it was like it
And
didn't
you
even
have
come
to
from
yeah,
my
to really think
mind.
about that. It's like,
And I was
"Okay, I
like,
better be ready."
do I really like, where did that come from? Am I okay with saying that? And then I thought about it, and I was like, yes, I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
And I
and then
said,
you would be held accountable for
yeah.
that too,
And I
so
said, amen.
absolutely. Amen.
And I'm telling you, okay. So to tell you that story, I have to back up. So before that, um, I had planned to go to Shavuot celebration with Bill Cloud, and the name
Mm-hmm.
of the Shavuot celebration was called Going Up to the Mountain. And
Oh
that
yeah.
mountain that was Mount Sinai. So
Amen.
there's a Shavuot celebration coming up. It's about Mount Sinai, and it's in Tennessee, Bill
Mm-hmm.
Cloud's celebration. And I had told all my friends that I was going with, I said, get us a house, and I'm going to go look for a wife
Amen.
or try to find a wife, bounce around and talk to people. So that was my plan.
Yep.
Fast forward to Mount Sinai, I say my prayer, and when I get back to the States, I only got like 5 more days, and then I'm going to this Passover or Shavuot celebration. Well, when I said that prayer in America's time, around 1 o'clock or 11 o'clock, same day, my friend read a Facebook post
Mm-hmm.
about, "Hey, I'm a girl who's trying to go to the Shavuot celebration with Bill Cloud, and I need a ride." And my friend, who's named Josie, she was like, "Oh yeah, we'll take you. Where are you? You're in North Carolina. We'll swing by and pick you up. We'll take you on your way. By the way, do you have a place to stay?" And she was like, "No, we don't have a place to stay." Well, my friend Josie said, "One of our people dropped out of renting our house, and we have a room available."
Mm-hmm.
So, and this girl's like, "Okay, well, yeah, I don't know anything about you, but let's talk some more." And then, okay, yes, I'll stay with you guys and go with you guys. And by the way, I'm going to Shavuot to go look for a husband.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So
There
all
you
this
go.
is being set up the day that I said my prayer at Mount
Yeah.
Sinai. I need to find a wife. So long story short, I get back to the States. We get under a roof and it's just
Amen.
fireworks. And then I had the realization, oh, this is exactly what I prayed for. And didn't go
Amen.
looking for anybody else at Shavuot. We just knew right away, like, hey, this is a God thing. God brought us together. Praise God and praise, me praying at the top of Mount Sinai. And thank you, God, for Mount Sinai. This Mount Sinai brought me my wife.
Well,
Now we're married and we have a kid.
that's the place to go if you want answered
Yeah.
prayers for sure, because a lot of people have been going to Mount Sinai and they get
Yeah.
their answered prayers and miracles are
Yes.
happening there. I call it the Mount Sinai miracles, and that's a
Yes.
huge blessing.
Yes.
And so that, I think this is a place where you really experience God. This is where you experience the
Absolutely.
Spirit of God upon it and upon
Yeah.
you when you truly go earnestly seeking Him, and He will
Yeah.
reveal Himself to you. So, but
Absolutely.
I do want to answer one question about the
Yes.
black covering on the rocks. It does not come
Yeah.
off. Somebody has asked that question.
No, no, no,
It does
no.
not rub off on your hands.
No, it doesn't. And the way I would describe it is, it's almost like the rock itself has been transformed on an outer layer.
Hmm.
So if you have those rocks tested, which we know people that have had it tested, it comes back as volcanic basalt. And the thing about volcanic basalt is it's supposed to be black all the way through, but
Hmm.
this rock is not black all the way through. It's
No.
only surface level.
And I
So this
wish
is
we
very
had
unique.
one of those that it would you can kind of see a little bit on the middle
Mhm.
of this where it's
Yeah.
lighter than the dark, but we have some better images of rock
Mhm.
where it is definitely a significant difference in the colors. You can see the dark and the lighter
Yeah.
almond color on the other rocks. So that's a pretty significant difference there.
Yeah. So
So,
like I tell people, they're like, "Oh, do you see evidence of melting and stuff like that?" Well, you should see glass or
mhm,
obsidian if you see like high heat melting. That's not what
mhm,
we see. What we see is basically like the rocks have been transformed and we are labeling it as basalt
mhm,
volcanic. But there's like some kind of transformation that happened and it stops at a certain level. The rocks below it is not the same. It's like granite. I think it's, yeah, granite. And then the upper portion is a basalt volcanic.
mhm.
And it's truly amazing. I mean, it's really baffling to see. And also, um, to be that mountain where it's at and to have this massive amount of blackness, and I mean, there's nothing like it. It will give you
It
chills
It is
just
it's
looking at it.
amazing just to think, how amazing it is, but then you can also see from can you see it from the plateau, the golden calf altar? Is it
Yeah,
from the plateau? We can see that directly, or
it's a little hard to see with the regular eye, but you can see it. Yes, you
mhm,
can stand from the plateau section and you can look
mhm,
down and see the boulders all piled up. You know, if
mhm,
there was a golden calf on top of that thing shining in the sun, you would absolutely see it. And
mhm,
anybody who's like banging drums and celebrating, like what the Israelites would have been doing,
mhm.
there's mention of the drums. You could absolutely hear it. There, the
Right.
acoustics from that location is truly incredible. I've never
Yeah.
heard anything like it. If you stand on the peak or stand on the plateau and shout,
Mhm.
you will hear it echo away and back and away and
Right.
back. And it's just incredible. Everyone could hear Moses shouting from the mountain.
Before we switch to the Revelation
Mhm.
question,
Yeah.
when you found Keith Johnson's hidden
Ah,
shofar, right?
yes.
The small shofar that was
Mhm.
tucked away that he had brought in.
Yeah.
I heard you blasting that at the
Mhm.
altar that Moses
Yeah.
built from that hidden location. How close, relatively close, was it to the plateau? Because that sound
Oh, no,
carried
no,
all the way.
we were I don't wanna give away too much of the
No,
location of
but
where the trumpet is, but the trumpet is on the plateau. It's in
okay.
a specific location, in a hole in a boulder.
Yeah,
Uh, if you come there with me, I'll take you to it, or we
and
can maybe
that's
take more
why it
shofars up
travels
there.
so easily to the
Yeah.
altar because we could
Mhm.
hear easily from the
Yeah.
altar. That was pretty awesome.
Yep.
That was pretty awesome. So, any quick questions about Mount Sinai
Yeah.
before I do the questions on Revelation?
I'm looking over here,
Okay,
I'm seeing a lot of comments,
okay.
but I'm not seeing a lot of questions
There's
here.
a lot of people that's ready to take a trip with you,
Oh,
Brian.
yeah, come on, let's go. Living Passages tours. Tell Rhonda Bryan sent you.
That's right, that's right. So,
Yeah,
I do have a question about the mark of the beast. So,
okay.
basically, what we can tell you is what the grammar says.
Mm,
And so the mark of the beast is hasiman, the mark or the sign. You wouldn't know the difference when it's translated unless you go back and look at the Hebrew. This is a Mishnaic term, and this Mishnaic term. Let me back up a little bit.
mm,
So, late Second Temple Hebrew, which is called New Hebrew or Rabbinic Hebrew,
mhm,
a subset of that Hebrew is represented in the Mishnah. And so we call that Mishnaic Hebrew. The Mishnah was actually finally completed about the 200 AD year CE. And so this was the language of the late Second Temple time period, which is what we're looking for. And we're looking for specific words, terms, spellings, grammatical shifts. And so this is one of those words. Now, the first time I saw the Hasiman word was that it was represented in the Mishnah. I think it's Mishnah Barakot. And it was actually translated as the omen. For the first time that it was used was translated as the omen. Now,
mm.
it does have a few etymological roots. And so we get into a lot of the digging of that. I believe that it can actually mean both a sign as well as an omen or
Mhm.
a curse.
Yeah, you gotta
So
say curse because omen and curse are like this.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And so that's the thing about this coaching revelation is that it is really connecting things to the Tanakh that we would expect that it would do. There
Mhm.
are significant differences that what we would want to see. And it has a lot of positive history behind it. So that's initial. That's the first thing we're looking for is a positive history behind it. And then you look for it solving some of the textual problems we had with the Greek translation of
Mhm.
the Hebrew. We know for a fact that the Revelation was written in Hebrew. in fact, I'm in a class at the Israel Institute of Biblical Studies. It's called Hebrew Revelation. And even they say this, they will give indicators and markers of where this is a translation from an original Hebrew source. So this is exactly what we're looking for. Now, as far as the mark of the beast, I think, we just need to realize that this is going to be a dreadful thing, that when you take this mark of the beast, that it comes with it, as from the way the grammar sounds, that it would be almost instantly that it comes with curses and this dark cloud of an omen over the person. So, and that means that you would have to deny the mark of the beast in order to, even though your children may be hungry, your children may be thirsty, you may have to deny that in order to refuse. You have to refuse the mark of the beast, and you will have to trust that the Father will provide food, clothes, and everything else that you need, just like he did in the days of when the children of Israel here in Mount Sinai. Ladies and gentlemen, if you see this and you think about the place that this is, there's very little greenery at all in this area, and the Father had to provide everything for them. And so you have to trust that it will happen again. So you will have to take that risk of saying, I'm sorry, little Johnny, little Susie, you're not going to be able to get food from the grocery store today because they require this mark. That is the only way you can be able to buy and sell. And so
Yeah.
you have to go with that understanding, right, Brian?
Yeah. The world is going to tell you that you are cursed if you don't take the mark,
Right,
that pain and suffering is coming if you don't take this mark. But the
right.
truth is, and Janice, you and I, we went through the scriptures together. There's no redemption story for the people who take the mark. If you
No,
take the mark, your fate is sealed.
it's sad
You're
too.
not you're not going to be part of the kingdom. So there's no choice really for a true believer. The choice is one thing: don't take it, refuse it, and then
Right,
trust God. I mean, that's
right.
that's our playbook here.
That is our playbook. And, I think that I personally believe that somehow artificial intelligence will be in relation to this. And that goes to Revelation 17:13. You guys, we have the Scroll of Mysteries free to download on projecttruthministries.org. Please do not go to any other site to buy the book other than Amazon, because it's the cheapest that you can get it on Amazon. There are people that are selling it on eBay for $120. That is not me nor Brian, nobody from Project Truth Ministries. We do not make money off of that. We intentionally give it to the public for free, so we don't want anyone else to make money off of it. But you can download it and look at Revelation 17, verse 13, about the Makshava, and how you can actually translate that in modern Hebrew, which is interesting.
Very telling.
Right, it's very telling. Echad Makshava, like her one computer. And of course, there's a computer, from some have said, in Israel that they're waiting for the perfect time to turn this computer on, as well as these end of day events. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but I know that in 2022, it was mentioned on a Shavuot message by Steve Mutria on TorahFamily.org's YouTube channel, and he mentioned that briefly at the beginning of that teaching. So I find that fascinating that, there may be hints in the Kochon Hebrew Revelation, the Scroll of Mysteries, of these end of day events. Well, clearly, the whole thing is about the end of day events, but there's more to it, even hidden within the grammar. And I think that is really fascinating. And so, yes, we will continue to keep these things free. We don't, when we're translating these scriptures, we do upload them. And I don't know if we mention it, we have the Kochon Hebrew Matthew chapter 19, which is already uploaded. And so you guys can go there and download chapter 19. So, Brian, anything
Yeah.
else that you want
You
to touch
I
on?
see a really interesting question I would like to answer, but I know Janice also would like to answer this.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
This says, do you believe the Kochon Hebrew Scroll of Mysteries should be serving as the new primary source text for all New Testament translations, over the currently preferred Greek text? If not, why not?
So if I could just start off, the reason why I say no is because I don't want to set aside the Greek, but I
Right.
do think that is worthy to set beside your Greek translation.
Yes.
And I think that they need to be studied together. I
Mhm.
would never say get rid of your Greek
Yeah.
translation, but I do think that Brian and I have talked about this before, that there should be both of them together side
Mhm.
by side and
Mhm.
referencing each other. But go ahead and add to it, Brian.
Yeah. And the thing is, the Greek itself backs up, if we're saying this is from a first century primary source, the Greek is backing up the bones of the Cochin.
Mhm.
Now, when you have textual differences, textual variants, those places that are different either, connect to the Old Testament, or they provide clarity on things that are confusing in the Greek. Not
Right,
necessarily that the Greek is wrong. The Greek can be redundant in some places and it
right.
can be cleared up. And so you can solve certain textual issues and clarifications through the Cochin Scroll of Mysteries. And again, that we're just talking about Revelation. We're not talking about
Right.
the other parts of the New Testament. To get very specific, the question was about the New Testament. We haven't translated all of the Cochin collection of the New
Not yet.
Testament. We're still working our way through those. Right now, we've done Revelation, we've done James, and we're working our way through Matthew.
Matthew.
Really like Matthew a lot. There's a
I
lot you
do
can glean
too.
from it. But again, we're not advocating to put one over the other, but we're saying that you need to use this as a tool to solve textual
Absolutely.
problems, because
Absolutely.
this is coming from a source that is different. It's like, okay, it's not
Well,
coming
Brian, I'm gonna
from
have to cut you
yeah.
off.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but we're out of
It's okay.
time. But we love you
Yeah,
guys. We
we love
just don't have enough time for all of
you.
this, but we will do this again. Don't you worry about it, you guys. We're so thankful for you guys being with us today. We love you guys. And so come visit us over at Project Truth Ministries. You guys, we're going to keep going. We're going to keep putting this out there for you. And thanks for hanging in there with us. And Brian, I will see you on the other side, my brother. And so you guys be blessed. If you missed today's show or want to watch it again, or want to tell someone where they can watch this episode, go to lambnetwork.tv, where you can find this show and all the other live Lamb Show archives in the on-demand section of the website. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to tell someone about the Messianic Lamb Network. We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussions, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the lambnetwork.tv website. I'm Janice Baca, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.